So the Republican convention has come to a close. I challenge anyone to count up how many Hatch Act violations, how many violations of federal law did you see during the course of the convention? Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So the Republican convention is in the books, and it really should be recorded by history as basically one long, uninterrupted Hatch Act violation. You know, as a former 30-year career prosecutor, the whole thing has me reflecting on the rampant, runaway criminal organization that is the Trump administration. Whether it's Kellyanne Conway, who has actually been found to be a serial Hatch Act violator, or Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State, who fires the Inspector General looking into his own misconduct, or Postmaster General DeJoy, who criminally slows delivery of the mail to interfere in our election. You know, November can't come soon enough so we can vote out this whole clown posse and begin the hard work and the important work and the energizing work and the necessary work of criminally investigating all of these people in the grand jury. Let's start with the Hatch Act. So the Hatch Act is a law that very simply prohibits federal government employees from engaging in political activity. For those of you scoring at home, the federal code cite to the Hatch Act is 5 USC 7323. And Kellyanne Conway has been found to have repeatedly violated that federal law. Don't take my word for it. There is an office in the federal government known as the Office of Special Counsel, not to be confused with Bob Mueller, who was temporarily appointed special counsel for the Trump-Russia investigation. This is called the U.S. Office of Special Counsel. And here is what they concluded and announced. Quote, OSC, Office of Special Counsel, finds Kellyanne Conway repeatedly violated the Hatch Act, recommends removal from federal service, close quote. That was in June of 2019, more than a year ago now. An investigation was conducted, and the federal agency responsible for investigating Hatch Act violations found that she was a serial Hatch Act violator and she should be removed from the federal government. And yet she continued collecting her salary, our taxpayer dollars, going into her expensive handbags. So we could move on from Kellyanne Conway's serial abuse of the Hatch Act to Mike Pompeo. Mike Pompeo, who as Secretary of State was being investigated by the Inspector General for the State Department, a gentleman named Steve Linick, for a couple of things. One, for abusing State Department resources for his own personal benefit. What a guy. And two, for his shady $8 billion arms deal with Saudi Arabia. So as Steve Linick was investigating to get to the bottom of Mike Pompeo's wrongdoing, Mike Pompeo fired him. And then lied about it and said, well, the president fired him, until the president said, no, Mike Pompeo told me to fire him. After that, Congress naturally, responsibly opened an investigation into Mike Pompeo's conduct and his firing of the Inspector General that was investigating him. And Mike Pompeo told all the State Department employees, do not comply with lawfully issued congressional subpoenas designed to uncover my misconduct. Well, that's a little thing called obstructing Congress. That's also a federal crime. For those of you scoring at home, it's 18 USC 1505. And in substance, it is a federal crime to withhold oral testimony from an inquiry or an investigation of any committee of Congress. And folks, I contend that Mike Pompeo's course of conduct, as I just summarily described, you could walk into court and a novice prosecutor could win a conviction in his or her sleep. Or how about Louis DeJoy, the relatively newly minted Postmaster General, $1 million donor to the Republican Party and to the Trump Victory Fund, who has slowed the mail to interfere in our right to vote, plain and simple. No other explanation for it. That also happens to be a federal crime, scoring at home, 18 U.S.C. 1703. And in summary, what that provides is that whoever, being a Postal Service officer or employee, unlawfully destroys or delays any letter, postcard, package, or other mail entrusted to him is guilty of that federal offense, unlawfully delaying the delivery of the mail. And of course, all of it, those crimes and so many others are excused by Bill Barr, are enabled by Bill Barr, are encouraged by Bill Barr, because Bill Barr, as the Attorney General, who can direct and who can initiate criminal investigations into all of these crimes by Trump and his family members and his, criminal associates and his cabinet members, Bill Barr refuses to do it. Ain't nobody getting investigated in Donald Trump's administration or in Donald Trump's orbit. Not by Bill Barr. Before I sign off, folks, I would also encourage everybody not only to get involved in every way we've been discussing, right? Call your elected representatives, check to make sure your voting status is active and updated. Talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, talk to your family, talk to strangers, make sure they're all registered to vote, and then make sure we all get out to the polls in November. But for all of these Hatch Act violations, and you saw one from Mike Pompeo too, right over in Jerusalem as the Secretary of State on a diplomatic mission, he weighs in, and there is no more quintessential political activity in violation of the Hatch Act than by speaking at the Republican convention and endorsing Donald Trump for re-election. And he happened to violate his own State Department rules when he did that. Not going to be investigated by Bill Barr, of course. But what I would say is you can also file your own complaint for all of these characters violating the Hatch Act. Just go to osc.gov, Office of Special Counsel.gov. And I'll put up right there a picture of what a complaint form looks like. Go online, osc.gov, fill out a complaint form for, pick your nefarious administration official or Trump family member, to the extent they are also, serving in official positions in the Trump administration, the Ivankas of the world, Kellyanne Conway, Mike Pompeo, and fill out a complaint form and shoot it over to the OSC, the Office of Special Counsel. Let's let them look into all of these claims. Will it help in the short term? No, because nobody's enforcing the law, at least not as it applies to Donald Trump and company. But in the long term, it will have an impact. And it's all going to catch up with these people beginning in January, when hopefully a grand jury investigation will be opened the minute Joe Biden is sworn in. And then the grand jury, sitting as the conscience of the community, will hear the evidence and will be in a position to hold every last one of these criminal, corrupt, abusive politicians accountable. As always, folks, please stay safe. And I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.